How are y'all feeling today? Is anybody excited about being in church today? Yeah. Man, before we jump into this message, I want to tell you that this past week we spent out at Ignite Camp, and I told you last week, but our band leads worship and production, provides production, all that stuff. And so these middle schoolers are completely blessed with what they get to be a part of. It's an amazing thing. But I'm starting to think, man, we had the hottest week that we have ever had in Delaware, it seemed like. Would you agree with me on that one? Yeah, it was cray-cray over there. But anyway, we were in Maryland, kind of the same. We're attached to that. We're only like 45 minutes away. But it was incredible. And I was starting to think maybe we should change the name from Ignite Camp to like Frozen Camp or something like that. Maybe it was just the name. We got a flame in our logo, so we asked for it on ourselves. But man, it was amazing. I heard stories of students from United Church. I heard students, middle schoolers, who gave their life to Jesus for the first time. Come on, somebody, that's amazing. I heard stories of middle schoolers who found their purpose and their calling in their life at 11, 12, 13 years old. How many of y'all know your life would have looked different if you would have been serving Jesus and worshiping him at 11, 12, and 13, man? It's amazing stuff. This stuff gets me fired up. And I was just out in the lobby after first experience, and this guy came up to me and said, man, I was so moved by this generosity piece, by the stewardship piece we talked about last week. He said, what are the needs here at United Church? And I said, well, we far outpaced our scholarships here for kids going to Ignite, but we would need that. And then we're also taking a trip to Jamaica. Man, my man wrote a $1,000 check on the spot right there. Come on, let's give it up for the generosity of God's people, man. Love those people, man. Not just because, has nothing to do with money, has everything to do with what he just provided. He provided a student to sit under the teaching of the gospel and to be forever changed. He provided an opportunity for people to go to Jamaica who are going to be able to do Bible school and be able to share Jesus in another country. It's amazing, amazing stuff. But man, today, as we get into this message of week 4 of Best Summer Ever, how many of y'all been enjoying this series of Best Summer Ever? I think it's been extremely helpful. We've talked about fullness, we've talked about freedom. Last week we talked about stewardship, but today I want to talk to you about the idea of friendship. And over my 31 years of living on this earth, I've incurred a ton of sage wisdom, right? I'm like the Kemosabe, not really, but I have learned a few things in 31 years. And some of the things that I'm learning is that we all have different types of friends. How many know that every friend is different? Come on. You know every friend is different. Some friends are more special than others, if you know what I'm saying. But I want to share a few of those with you and make sure that we share some of these same friends. The first one I was thinking of as we were writing this message is this friend who is the Debbie Downer. You ever met that friend? The Debbie Downer. No matter what the idea is, no matter how amazing your idea is or how good your idea is, they always find a way to squash your dreams. You have those friends? Yeah, you try to stay away from them, right? You see them coming, you're like, oh, I'm going this way, right? I'm not even looking to, and someone may not be like, friends is a loose term for that. And a close relating person to the Debbie Downer is Negative Nancy. You've met Negative Nancy, that everything that comes out of his or her mouth is negative, and even closely related is Johnny Raincloud, right? That every time you seem to be having a good day, it's like, this thunder cloud ends up over you, and you're like, what in the world? Could you just take a long walk on a short pier? That would be awesome. That would be amazing. Then another person I was thinking of is Sarcastic Steve. We all have friends who are sarcastic. Would we agree? Are you the friend who is sarcastic? I'm kidding, don't raise your hand. I'm about to pick on you a little bit. I love these people because these are the people that you're like, hey man, what's up? And they're like, the roof? And you're like, are you serious right now? Like, we're like 31 at this point. Like, you don't say that stuff. But I love these people because this is what I try to do. I know who they are. And so I try to see what they got. You know what I mean? I want to see what kind of sarcastic remark you got for me. And so I'll push them to the edge. And then when they come back with something so stupid, I'm like, really? That's all you got? That's the best sarcastic remark you got? Maybe you don't have a friend who's like Sarcastic Steve, but maybe you have someone who's like Polly Positive, right? This is the person that every single day, it's like their head is in the clouds. Like they have, by the time you wake up, they've already posted 17 times on Facebook. You know this person. You're laughing because they've already read the entire New Testament. They watched the sunrise, right? They've led 3 people to Jesus. Like you're like, what were you? This is at 5:30 a.m., right? This is not even into the day. And you're going, what in the world? Do you ever sleep? These people, our head is always in the clouds. Man, praise God for those people because they kind of keep the rest of us motivated that life maybe isn't all that bad. But the last person is, and maybe you can relate to him, is Ricky Realist. This person it's the tether to your hot air balloon, right? This is the person, this is Pastor Mark for me in my life. Like, I'll come to him and I'm like, man, I got an amazing idea. And he's like, well, that's awesome, but it's gonna cost $14 million and you got $14. So I'm not sure how we're gonna get there. It's not negative Nancy, it's not Debbie Down, it's just Ricky Realist. My wife is this way. I come with like amazing ideas and she's like, that's awesome, but what are the steps we're gonna take? You know, you just need those people, just the Ricky Realists in your life. But I mean, I would believe that in a room this size is that we all have people who fall into some of these categories. Maybe you've got a friend who's a Debbie Downer. Maybe you've got a friend who's the sarcastic Steve. Maybe you've got a friend, somewhere one of these people would kind of land with you. I don't know who that is, but here's what I believe, church, and this is what I want you to write down if you're taking notes. I believe this about friendships. I believe that the friendships that we choose will determine both the direction and quality of our lives. I'm gonna kind of stay here for a moment because I believe this is something that we need to soak in. This is something that we need to get. Is that the friendships that we choose will determine both the direction and quality of our lives. I believe that many of you could probably kind of put some names with this, with some people that have not only changed the direction, but the quality of your life. How many of you have ever had a friend who has lowered the quality of your life, right? If you're sitting beside them, don't tell them, right? How many of you have had friends in your life who have raised the quality of your life? Yeah, we have friends who have raised the quality of our life. And another quote that I want to share with you, Jim Rohn, he's an amazing speaker. He said this. He said, we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And some of you are like, oh, snap. Look, you are the average. We are the average of the people that we spend the most time with. And if this is true, and I believe it is, then we need to examine the 5 people that we spend the most time with. Some of you are like, I'm married to them. What do I do about that? We'll get to that in a moment. But here's what I believe is that no matter where you find yourself, whether it be in your job, whether it be in your hobby, whether it be whoever you surround yourself, that we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And so today, we're going to have to do some heavy work, some heavy lifting of what does this mean for me in my life. For some of you, it may mean that you need to look for a different job. Notice, I did not say you need to quit your job, all right? Wives, do not blame me for your husband quitting his job tomorrow. If he quits tomorrow, he's the dummy, not me, okay? Or the vice versa, because I'm telling you, you may need to look for something. Maybe you need to change who you go to the gym with. Maybe you need to change who you hang out with, go fishing with. I don't know, but this is what I believe to be true, is that we're the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. If you take the average of their morals, if you take the average of their choices, if you take the average of their convictions, I believe that you will find this to be true. And if this is true, and like I said earlier, I believe it is, then it's important who we surround ourselves with. Last year, I preached a message around this time about friendships and the power of friendships, and I believe it was so powerful that I wanted to revisit this today. We repackaged this so that we could have a fresh look on what it means to choose our friendships wisely, to pick the people that we surround ourselves with, because I've heard story after story and talking to people of people that are taking advice from people that should not be giving them advice or they should not be receiving advice from. And I believe this is going to be a powerful, powerful day. So if you got your Bible, turn with me to Proverbs chapter 27. Proverbs chapter 27, we're going to see Solomon is the author of Proverbs, and he is an amazing man. He is an extremely known as the wisest man to have ever walked the face of the earth. And so he's got some one-liners that are just incredible that will steer us in the right direction in life, will point us into the right place. And so Proverbs chapter 27, one verse for today, and write this down. I want you to write the whole verse if you're taking notes, because I believe it'll be something that you can come back to, and it goes like this. It says, iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. I want to acknowledge real quick that I'm from North Carolina, and so when I say iron, it may sound a little weird, okay? Just got a little iron sharpens iron. I got a little southern drawl to it, so some are like, what's he saying up there? Iron, that's what I'm saying. This word right here is what I'm saying, okay? Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. I believe that this is the portrait of a healthy friendship. I believe that this is the portrait of what it looks like to have friends that we should have in our life. And this doesn't just pertain to men. I know it says one man sharpens. It's really talking about one person. So iron sharpens iron as one person sharpens another. This is an important take on this. And so today what I want to do is I want to share with you a little diagram that'll help us understand, and we'll work from this today. And this is the circle of friendship. The circle of friendship has two circles. One is the inner circle, and the second one is the outer circle. And you're like, wow, that's mind-blowing right there, Pastor Kenneth. But I believe that today, that as we work through this, as we work in this, I believe this will be powerful as you discern where friends will fall, the inner circle and the outer circle. The inner circle are the people that influence you in a good direction, at least they should be. The inner circle are your godly friends. These are the people that you trust. These are the people that speak into your life. These are the people, as we talked about in Proverbs 27:17, these are the people who sharpen you. Now, the outer circle is a little bit different. The outer circle are the people who drag you down, the people who are influencing you negatively. These are the people that dull you spiritually. And I believe as we begin talking about this, you can begin popping in your mind people that are in your inner circle and people that are in your outer circle. How many of you have names coming to your mind as we begin to talk about it? Yeah, you've got people coming into your mind. And so first what I want to do is I want us to take a look at this inner circle thing. And before we do that, I want to take a little time out and say this. Is that we all need, every single one of us, we need friends who are in our outer circle. There is no possible way that we can love Delaware until our heart beats like the Father, until we have friends in our outer circle who may not be up to speed with us spiritually. They may not even be followers of Jesus, and so it's important. But here's what I want to tell you today, church, is that we cannot confuse who is in our inner circle with who is in our outer circle. Does that make sense today? Does that make sense today? Okay, cool. Wasn't rhetorical. So iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. So today I want to give you two questions that I use when I'm looking for people who sharpen me, people who are healthy friends to have. And the first question I ask is this, are they wise? Are they wise? Proverbs 13, verse 20 says this. It says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools might suffer harm. Now, what does it say? It says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools might suffer. No, what does it say? It says what? That's that word right there. Come on, this is so weak today, church. But the companion of fools, will suffer harm. And so how do you know if they're wise? Well, I want to ask you this question. What is the result of the majority of their decisions? I have people that are like, man, things just don't go right for me, Pastor Kenneth. Things aren't rolling for me. They're not falling in the right place. I'm like, because you keep making stupid decision after stupid decision. That's why things aren't going right. And so I've got this little equation I want to share with you. Check this out. You take the person, you add their decision, and you look at their result. This is how we determine if someone is wise. Okay, any given person, Kenneth, what are the decisions that he's making? Okay, 95% are wise, 5% are unwise. Results is majority of things are wise. If you take the person, the majority, 50-50 of their decisions are wise, 50% of them are unwise. The results it's like, the workout. The results may vary. You just find this to be true in our life. And if we're looking at who should be in our inner circle, I believe it's important that we choose friends who are wise. And this is what I know to be true today, church, is that the pursuit of wisdom will do more to motivate you to rethink your relationships than anything else. If you're committed to following Jesus, if you're committed to knowing him more, the pursuit of wisdom will do more to motivate you to rethink your relationships than anything else in your life. If we want to follow Jesus closer, then we need to pursue wisdom. It says in the scripture we should pursue it at all costs. It doesn't matter what it costs us, let's go after it. James 1:5, it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God. Look, this is another promise from God as well. He said, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. That simply, if we come before God, we say, God, I'm lacking in wisdom. I'm a person, my decisions, the results are a little low in seeking after wisdom. And so, God, I need you to help me with the decisions I'm making. And it says, if we ask him, it will be given generously. It will be given to him. That's good news today, church. So the first thing, are they wise? The second thing I ask is this, is do they point me towards Jesus? Church, what I have found in my 31 short years, what I have found is this, is that there's the power of life and death in the friends that we choose. They literally speak life or death over you. Our friends can either make us feel more alive, or you have those friends who make you feel the exact opposite. I don't know if you have any of those friends, but man, sometimes those friends that just speak negativity, they speak death over your life on a constant basis. And so today we need to examine, do they point you towards Jesus? And there's something to this sharpening piece. Go back to that verse 27:17. It says, iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. How many of you guys have ever sharpened a knife? Anybody ever sharpened a knife? I remember when I was younger, my dad used to buy me knives. It seemed like all the time. I don't know what he was preparing me for, but he would buy me knives, and we would have this little whetstone. How many of you guys have ever used a whetstone to sharpen a knife? Yeah. And so you would use this little whetstone to sharpen a knife, but never once did my dad bring me a piece of gravel and say, sharpen your knife with this. Why? Because there's a consistency issue that only the whetstone will actually sharpen, will actually bring an edge to the blade, will actually get it to prepare to do what it was actually prepared to do. Nobody would ever go out to a parking lot, grab a piece of gravel and say, I'm gonna sharpen this knife. I gotta do some paring, I gotta cut up some meat, I gotta get ready for tonight's meal, grab a piece of gravel. No, why? Because it dulls the blade. You see, some of us in our life, we have some friends that have some consistency issues. The reason we don't use a piece of gravel, we use a piece of whetstone, is because of the consistency that it's made of. And look, I'm not talking about are they consistent or inconsistent. I'm talking about what are they made of. We have some people that we've allowed into our inner circle of our life who constantly dull us spiritually, who constantly bring us down. They constantly speak life or speak death over our life. And look, I'm not saying that we need to send them off in a corner and never talk to them again, but I'm saying that we would be wise to examine who is speaking into my life, who is speaking into my marriage, who is speaking into the relationships of my life, who is speaking into my work, who is speaking into those things. Because if it is somebody who needs to be in the outer circle and they're speaking into the inner circle, I believe that the end result of that is devastating today, church. The first experience was the same way. It is extremely tense in here today because I believe that God is doing some work in people's lives of identifying people that are on your inner circle that you're gonna have to remove. Now, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't take them to Starbucks this afternoon and sit down with them and say, hey, man, this is not working out. I'm gonna need you to move to the outer circle, right? You've been speaking a lot of death over me, as Pastor would say. You've been really negative, as Pastor would say. I mean, it's not me saying it, this was Pastor, so don't be mad at me, okay? But I'm gonna need you. I mean, see, I've got this inner circle, and if the 5 people that I spend the most time with, they shape who I am, like this direction of quality. Pastor said it, I'm not sure what he said, but I've got these people that I need to surround myself, but you're just not one. I'm sorry, it's not you, it's me, really. It's really not. That's not gonna work well, I'm telling you. But we need to do the hard work in our mind of saying, hey, are they pointing me towards Jesus? And I don't know about you, and I don't need a response for this, but every single day, I wanna follow Jesus at a greater level. I wanna know him more. I want the direction and the quality of my life to increase. And so I wanna do the hard work of saying, hey, if there's somebody speaking death into my life that's on the inner circle, look, honey, I don't care who it is, you gotta move, right? You gotta go to the outer circle. And some of you may ask the question and say, Pastor Kenneth, but what do I do? Seriously, if I'm married to this person, what do I do? Because I want to follow Jesus, I want to go after Jesus, but my husband or my wife doesn't want to go after Jesus. What do I do with that? And this is what I would tell you, is that there's some people who can be on your inner circle in certain parts of your life, but they've got to be on your outer circle in other parts of your life. Let me give you an example like this. Say you have a friend who's a financial planner, but he's been married 47 times. Are you going to take marriage advice from that person? I'll take financial advice from you. That's cool. You're successful in that. You're doing great in that. But the marriage thing, I'm going to find somebody who's been married for a long time, who's got a good track record. They love their husband. They love their wife. I'm going to take advice. Does that make sense, church? And so even if they're your husband or their wife, they may be on your inner circle because they sleep in your bed. Come on, somebody, right? They're in the inner circle. But that doesn't mean they have to be in your inner circle when it comes to speaking into your life spiritually. It just doesn't have to happen. And again, I'm not saying sit down with them and say, Pastor said you're speaking death over me. You got to stop that. I'm just saying, filter what you allow them to speak into your life. And man, when I got serious about following Jesus, I had to examine the friends that I allowed into my inner circle. It was one of the hardest things that I had to do. one of the hardest things that I had to do was to move some people from the inner circle into the outer circle. Church, I believe that if we were to examine our lives, have some friends in the inner circle that need to be not in the inner circle, but in the outer circle. Church, outer circle friends are awesome and they're necessary. I've got outer circle friends, but these outer circle friends they're not speaking to me about my spiritual life. They're not speaking to me about my marriage. I'm not consulting them for big decisions in my life, because if it's true, and again, I believe it is, that the friendships that we choose determine both the direction and quality of our lives, then we should choose wisely who makes it in the inner circle. A couple more things about inner circle friends. I think that inner circle friends, as I've said probably already 100 times, inner circle friends should speak life. When you leave their presence, do you feel more alive or do you feel less alive? Inner circle friends should increase your passion. They should increase your passion about the things of God, about the house of God, about seeing people, about seeing God move, about seeing those far from God being united with Christ, passion about those things that are eternal. These are what inner circle friends should do. Inner circle friends should foster unity. Jesus said that the world would know who he says he is by the unity that we display. Are our friends all the time, is somebody in our inner circle pulling us away from that? Are they dividing or do they bring unity? One of the other things I found is that inner circle friends should offer godly advice and not just personal opinion. How many of y'all know there's some difference to that, church? Yeah. I've been talking to some people that are going through some marriage stuff, and they've got people speaking into their marriage that shouldn't be in their inner circle. They've got people speaking into their marriage that are telling them, hey, you've tried hard enough, you should just give up and quit. Really? I don't know about y'all, but somebody starts giving me advice like that, they're going quickly from inner circle to outer circle. They might even make it to the outer circle. You going, you're like, I'm not even messing with that, right? Because who knows what God says, that we should fight for this thing, that don't give up on this thing, fight for this. I want people in my inner circle that are saying, hey, this may be hard, you may be going through hell in your life, but I'm gonna cheer you on, I'm gonna encourage you, I'm gonna point you towards Jesus, I'm gonna clap for you when you don't feel like you can go on. Those are the people I want in my inner circle. How about you? Look, when I'm lifting weights or doing something crazy, I don't want people, you can't lift that. Like, you crazy? That's stupid. I mean, like, first of all, I'm like, fall under the weight. I want people going like, man, you got this, man. You can do this, because when it comes to that point, man, there's no telling what I can do. I like, blow the roof off this place. Come on. But I'm here to tell you today that some of you got some inner circle friends that need to be in the outer circle. Some of you got some outer circle friends that need to make their way in the inner circle, because they love you. They love you more than they love God more than they love you. And they're going to tell you the truth. Man, this morning, this is so important. This is so stinking important. As I was thinking about this, not just the inner circle, but the outer circle, there's a few things that we can look at when it comes to the outer circle and how to identify, do we need some space between these people and things in our life? And the first thing I thought of is this idea of insulated versus isolated. For Christmas, I got a Yeti mug, and it says it keeps it hot for 12 hours. That's just not true. It doesn't. But it does insulate it. For a good 3 to 4 hours, I've got hot coffee. And I started thinking about this idea of insulation, that this hot coffee, what's going on inside it, is not affected by what's going on outside of it. And the same should be true for us as followers of Jesus. Like, we should be insulated, but we shouldn't be isolated. I don't know about y'all, but my mug, my Yeti mug, it's not gonna do anything like separated from the cups up on the top shelf where you put the free cups that everybody gives you that you never use. You know those? It's not gonna do me any good if it's up there isolated from the ones that are useful. And as followers of Jesus, if we're going to be useful for the kingdom, we need to be insulated but not isolated. And in our workspace, we need to be insulated. You're like, man, but they live like crazy people in my work. I don't know if I can do this, continue to do this. We need to ask ourselves, are we insulated well? Are we insulated? Well, the second thing I was thinking of when I thought of that is this idea of the thermostat versus the thermometer. And I've shared this with you before. Like, are you setting the spiritual temperature, or are you responding to the temperature of the room? You see, a thermostat dictates the temperature. A thermometer just rises and falls. And so a thermostat, as a Christian, would say, hey, no matter what environment I'm in, I'm gonna follow Jesus and I'm gonna glorify him no matter what it costs. A thermometer says, look, no matter if I'm around Christians, I'm gonna act like Christians. If I'm around non-Christians, I'm gonna act like non. I'm gonna kind of rise and fall on this thing. And so I don't say that to discourage you. I simply say it to say this, that if the 5 people you're spending the most time with, you see your ebb and flow of a thermometer, man, you need to say, God, help me with this. Help me be a thermostat so I can dictate the spiritual temperature in any room that I walk in. Is this resounding with anybody today? The third thing the last thing I was thinking of this is this idea of influencing versus influenced. Are you the one who's doing the influencing, or are you being influenced? I remember when I was a student pastor, I remember sharing this illustration usually about dating relationships, and this will go pretty good if you're in a dating relationship that's not godly. But I remember illustrating this way is I would stand on the stage and I would have somebody equally sized come down, and I would say, hey, look, I'm gonna try to pull you up and you try to pull me down. And every single time, it doesn't matter how strong the person is on the stage. Well, I mean, some people, maybe they could like curl them or something like that, cool. But if you have 2 equally strength people, it seems like, or even the stronger person on the top, it seems like they just get pulled down. And I was thinking about this influencing versus influence idea of following Jesus, that sometimes that man, we try to influence the people around us, but we end up being influenced ourselves. Again, I don't tell you any of these things to be discouraged. I simply tell you these things to say, if these are the people that we're spending the most time with, then it will set the direction and the quality of our life. And so I think a good prayer today, if those people are dragging us down, God, would you insulate me? Like, God, would you help me to be a thermostat? God, would you help me to be the one who is influencing the people in my presence? I think about this, church, that each individual person makes up the entire church. That's pretty obvious. But I started thinking about, what if we started to examine the people that we allowed into our inner circle? What if I did it? What if you did it? The person beside you, the person in front of you, behind. What if we all, can you imagine what would change? Could you imagine the looks on our faces when we have people in our inner circle that are like, man, you can do this. You got this, man. Following Jesus, it's hard, but you got this. Like, your marriage you're going through a rough patch, but you got this. Your business is struggling, but let me tell you, you got this. Keep working, keep going after it, keep hustling, you got this. Imagine what would happen collectively if we all did the heavy lifting and the hard work of saying, are the right people in my inner circle? If it really does impact the direction and the quality of my life, is the people that are surrounding me, do I have the right people in place? Church, I believe that this is another way how we love Delaware until our heart beats like the Father's. Because sometimes when people are far from God and we have them in our inner circle, we may be the greatest stumbling block to them ever experiencing Jesus. Because we've allowed the people who influence us to be in our inner circle, and they begin to see us fall and trip up and do all these crazy things when we're supposed to be the one influencing them. But if we would have just had them in the right place, we could have shared Jesus with them effectively. Does this make sense today? This person who goes out and gets wild every weekend, you're like, man, I'm gonna go hang out with them. But every time you go hang out with them, you get wild with them. You may be the greatest stumbling block to them finding Jesus. Saved Christian woman, you're dating a non-Christian man, and he should be in your outer circle, but he's in your inner circle, and you give yourself away to him. You may be the single greatest thing standing in the way of him finding Jesus. And I don't say this, I say this in the most life-giving way that I can to encourage you to move these people just from the inner circle to the outer circle and watch what happens in your life. Church, we need people who sharpen us. We need people who encourage us. We need people who speak life into us. While the Great Commission says that we should go and we should reach every single person, this may be what's standing in the way of us doing that, is getting the right people in the right place.